Today, I'm going to be talking about creating kick-ass brochures. I am the director of marketing for Unique Venues. I also work with Joel, who's the director of consulting at Unique Venues, on a lot of consulting projects as far as design work and graphic design work goes. I may have designed infographics for your venue already, and I help kind of support Lisa and the client services team to make sure that if you do have any design work, either I do it or another team of graphic designers does it that I work closely with. So I'm really excited to talk about this topic today. I loved everything design, and so I'm super excited to get started. So you may be asking yourself, are brochures even relevant anymore? I know that there's a lot of people who have strong opinions when it comes to marketing as far as using printed marketing collateral versus digital marketing collateral. And if you remember, Unique Venues did go all digital a few years ago, a couple years ago, I guess now. And we are a huge proponent of digital marketing. However, there is a huge benefit to printed marketing materials like brochures. One study found that printed brochures are more likely to drive consumer behavior versus digital publications. And one reason being is because they're tangible. They're something that you hold in your hands. That feeling of, holding an actual tangible product and reading it in your hand it's more memorable to a consumer than it is reading it on a screen. Think about how many different ads and things you read on your computer throughout a day, and your retention is just going to plummet. But if you actually have a real product in your hand that you can hold and you can, turn the pages to and take your time sitting there reading it, it's going to be more memorable. Also think about the kind of materials that you're printing on as well. You can print brochures. This is kind of getting off topic, but I'm just kind of spitballing here, but you can print your brochures on certain types of paper that have a certain texture on it or a certain feel. You might have some designs on your product that maybe you can print some like inlay, or you could do some kind of matte material on it. So this whole experience of a brochure is kind of tricking your consumer psychologically, which we're going to get into when we talk about color psychology and psychology of fonts. So that's just another way to like trigger the consumer senses, is with a printed brochure and the different kinds of materials that you're printing on. So why does your venue need a brochure? To attract planners, to attract couples, to attract different associations or local organizations to do business with you at your site. So your brochure is going to highlight your venue, and you want to be able to provide information, to provide imagery that will resonate with your ideal client. And your ideal client is going to be in your target audience that you are trying to attract. So the different kinds of brochures that we could have, you might know, like pamphlets. I have just a small example here, but there's different ways that you can print pamphlets off, whether it be a trifold, a bifold. There's different ways to fold it. And essentially a pamphlet is just a folded sheet of paper or cardstock that lists your products or services or information about your venue. It's not as in-depth, and it's just kind of something that you can pass out quickly and somebody can review just at first glance and kind of look at your bullet points. A printed brochure, like I said, is a tangible service catalog. It has multiple pages on it. More than likely, it's going to be bound or stapled. And then the digital brochure is exactly that. It's just your printed brochure, service brochure, but in a digital format. And you can use websites like FlipSnack that take your PDFs and make them into exactly that, a flippable brochure that's digital. So why do you even want a brochure, and what kind of content do you need to needs to live within that brochure? You really want to build trust. From a marketing perspective, you want to build trust. Trust is number one. Trust is going to help the consumer, their prospective client, planner, local organization, whoever you're trying to attract in your audience. You want to be able to build that kind of trust with them, to open that communication and open that kind of dialogue with them, to get them to your venue for an on-site visit so that you can get contracted and they can do business with you. So your brochure needs to provide information for that ideal client, which we're going to talk about soon. Provide information for them that makes them want to do business with you. Why should they trust you? Why are you a trustworthy venue? Have you pulled off successful events in the past? Do you have testimonials? There's certain things that build trust to a consumer, and a brochure is going to help do that. It's going to lay the foundation for you. So if you're familiar with the marketing funnel, basically what you're trying to do is use the brochure to take your ideal client from the consideration stage in the funnel, which is the stage in the funnel where you're going to be providing the marketing collateral, because these are qualified leads at this point in your funnel that you've kind of been interacting with. You want to nurture this lead by providing content for them about your venue. A brochure is a great way to do that. This will take them from the consideration stage to the next stage in the funnel, which is intent. So you really want your prospective client to move into this stage so that they can either book a demo with you, a discovery call, they can book an on-site visit, honestly, even send an email about contracting or different prices. I do want to put Corey on the spot here because I'm looking at this from a marketing perspective, and I am well aware that a lot of the people attending this call kind of are a jack of all trades in their venues right now. They are the marketers, they are the salespeople simultaneously. So I want to kind of pick Corey's brain as the director of sales for Unique Venues about how, you know, brochures also help from a sales perspective, and hopefully booking more business. Corey, do you have any insight or?
Yeah, so everyone's sales and marketing funnel might look different. I think the two terms that Ali has up here, consideration and intent, are certainly ways that we would view the prospective clients that we're working with. But I even want to take it a step before the consideration phase, when we're talking about the interest and you're keeping the prospect involved and engaged in the process. You're learning a little bit more about why they've reached out to you in the first place. And you're also presenting them with the first level of information that you have to offer. So for Unique Venues, our core service being our profile and lead generating service is something that we don't really need a brochure to talk about. I mean, a brochure, and I'll kind of talk about what our brochure looks like in just a moment, and we can even share an example of it. But, our brochure is really intended to be built to provide a deeper understanding of everything that we offer with Unique Venues, and not just our foundational level service. So what we like to do in the consideration step is, once you're engaged in, even maybe before having a call with that individual or meeting with them to walk them through our services, I do end up sending that brochure so that they can review everything at their own pace. And what I really like about a brochure, and I think what we find incredibly valuable on the Unique Venue side, is that brochures offer a really, and I've been trying to prepare for this because Ali said, I'm going to mention this, and I can't find the right word for it, but I think a brochure is a really easy, and there's not a ton of pressure in the way that you're presenting all of the information. I know that as salespeople, we have to walk that fine balance between being helpful and being a salesperson. We have our goals to hit, and we've got the revenue to bring in for our, in your cases, venues, and in our case, our company. But we also want to be a trusted individual. And by providing everything up front and letting people kind of explore the options themselves, I think that it presents a really nice way for folks to kind of gain a better understanding about the services that you offer without someone kind of breathing down their neck or walking them through everything. Another reason that I like to send the brochures ahead of time is because it's also going to give them a better idea of everything that we can do to help them that they might not have even considered when they originally reached out to us. I know that for us, a lot of the folks that we work with, don't like to talk a whole lot about their budget in the sales process. So by providing them a resource that maybe does list a range of prices or the exact price of what you're offering, it also helps them better understand how the services and solutions that we offer fit within the budget that they have available, so that the conversations and everything that you do from that consideration point on is going to be a lot more meaningful. And you're not just going to be wasting time talking about things that they can't even do, but you're going to be spending more time talking about the things that matter most to them. So I think that that's how, with unique venues at least, the brochure really benefits us in the consideration and the intent stage to create a better and more trusting relationship with the prospects, and eventually kind of lead to a quicker sales process on our end too, that kind of cuts out some of the fluff and leads to conversations that are most relevant to the unique needs and budget of the folks that we're working with. Oh, and can I say one more thing, Allie?
Oh, yeah.
It also provides a consistent approach too, because there's like 4 or 5 of us any given day really responding to prospects and working with folks. And every individual has their own approach, which is amazing. And that's what makes the unique venues team in particular a ton of fun. But what's really nice is that the consistency of the outreach really does help make the expectation of the prospect the same, no matter if it's me talking to that prospect, Brian, Chuck, Neil, Joel, whoever it might be. The expectation that that prospect has in the process is going to be the same from person to person once that brochure is shared.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Core, for sharing that from a sales perspective. Like I said, I'm coming at this presentation from a marketer's perspective. And I know that obviously sales and marketing work very closely. Corey and I meet all the time. But there's certain things that in the sales funnel or the sales process, I'm not as keen to. So it's really nice to have that sales perspective. So thanks, Core. And like I mentioned, I definitely know that a lot of people on this call are the salesperson and the marketer at their venues. So that's really helpful to hear that perspective.
And Allie, just to confirm that, I just launched the poll results. And on question number 2, who is responsible for final approval of the design? Just about 35% of the attendees said it was that person that filled out the result. So I think you're right with that, that we got a lot of people who are consolidating different roles for their venues.
Yeah. Especially right now, it's a lot of people are wearing a lot of different hats, and we understand that, and I understand where you're coming from. So yeah, that's definitely great to have those different perspectives on it. So as far as your brochure goes, and I want to talk about some marketing and finding your target audience within your target market. And there is a difference. So a target market is the set of consumers that a company plans to sell to or reach with marketing activities. Okay, it's definitely broader than your target audience. Your target audience is a group or segment within that target market that you're serving with advertisements, that you're providing the brochures to, that you're having these deeper conversations with to try and get them to contract business with you and to book events and meetings and weddings and team building activities at your venue. So this is a very specific audience, your target audience within the market. So I'm thinking of an example. Your market might be, from a venue perspective, your market might be weddings. You might want to attract wedding events, being elopements. It could be large wedding receptions and ceremonies. It could be bridal showers even. And your target audience within that would be the boho bride, potentially. Or it could be couples with a budget of $10,000 or more. Like you really want to hit that certain threshold or that certain segment within your market that you're trying to attract. And that's going to define the marketing tactics and the strategies and the types of content that you put in your brochure to attract that specific segment of your audience. Because if you're trying to attract a couple with a budget of $10,000 or more at your venue, you're going to provide certain amenities. You're going to provide certain level of services that you might not provide for a couple that's not willing to spend that much on their wedding. So being able to define that and provide that kind of information in visual providing visual aids and photography within your brochure that helps supplement what you're saying in your copy to attract that segment, that's going to go a long way and it's going to help you attract your ideal client. You know, I was thinking about Google ads and Facebook ads and how you can manage those, and I was thinking about how we segment them. And so you're really trying to hone in on a specific set of people. So you might have an ad go out that's targeted towards your audience, not just your market. So you wouldn't just spend money on a Google ad just hoping to put weddings out there and attract all kinds of people that you might have to turn down because you don't provide services for that kind of couple. You really want to create an ad that's very specific to your niche, that's specific to the segment that you want to attract and do business with. That's your ideal client, because it costs money. Just like brochures, they cost money. The time and effort and the print of it, that's all material, that's all money and labor costs. So you want to make sure that you're putting just as much thought into your brochure development as you are into your Google ad placements or your Facebook ad placements, because they do just as well for you from a marketing perspective. So finding your target audience. I found a stat online that said $37 billion is wasted in ad spend every year from ads that fail to engage the target audience. That goes right back to my last example of Google ads and Facebook ads, and making sure that you're spending the money. So you want to make sure that when you create them, you're creating ads that attract your target audience and not just everybody in that market. So there's about 6 ways that you can find your target audience. The first one being client interviews. So this takes a lot of research, but you can use client interviews with current clients that you're working with planners, with clients that have held events or meetings or weddings at your venue previously. Look at the demographics, look at the people who have booked business with you the past year or 2 years out or back, I guess, and compare the statistics. Look at how much money they spent. Look at, are they female or are they male? Are they associations or are they wedding related business? Are they professional gatherings? Are they corporate social parties? So see what's bringing in the most revenue for you, and use this information to compare the demographics and their interests. And then also interview these clients to see what kind of experience they had with their venue. If they didn't rebook with you, I mean, find out why they didn't rebook with you. It might hurt to hear, but it's good to know, you know, what isn't working so that you can adjust that, or see, okay, well, maybe if you interviewed 5 clients that were professional meeting clients who booked your venue, and 4 out of the 5 said it just wasn't a great corporate environment, then maybe that tells you that your venue should be focusing more on social gatherings. So getting interviews, getting perspective from past clients and current clients goes a long way. The second thing you can do is market research. So you can either conduct your own research on the market that you're trying to target your audience in. You can hire a consultant, you can purchase studies, and then they'll help you really find out more information about your industry and about the trends that are happening. The third thing you can do is study the competition. And I just really want to make sure that there's a disclaimer here that says you're not copying the competition. I am not telling you to go out and look at your competition in your local area or online and search out venues that are similar to yours to copy them, because that is, first of all, illegal. And secondly, it's not fair, and it's not a good look. So, but what you can do is study the competition, learn how they're attracting their audience that might be similar to yours. So what kind of social platforms are they using? Are they using Pinterest? Do they have a huge Pinterest following? Look at the kind of content that they have. Maybe they have an amazing blog and they're pinning all of their blog posts on Pinterest and growing traffic that way. and you don't have a Pinterest account, maybe that's something you might consider developing, is a Pinterest account. So that's what I mean by studying the competition. See what you think is working for them, that maybe there's a loophole in your business or your venue that you think that you can kind of capitalize on and develop from a marketing standpoint. Number 4 are personas, and developing personas of your ideal client within your target audience. So these personas are basically when you kind of write down like a made up or a make believe client, like who do you want to work with? Like in the most perfect world, think about, okay, this is the kind of client I would love to book business with, and write down 3 to 5 different personas. And those would be your ideal client within your target audience. And then that helps your marketing efforts. You can really strategize around, okay, how am I going to attract? I keep going back to like a boho bride, but how am I going to attract a boho bride to book weddings at my venue? I have a super cool venue in the desert, and that's a huge trend right now. And I know that boho brides want something like that. So how can I use my marketing efforts to attract that kind of ideal client? Number 5, using Google Analytics. Now, I will be the first to admit that it took me a while to understand Google Analytics. It is complex. Google does offer free courses that you can take and be certified as to learn Google Analytics. I did them, and it is kind of time consuming, I'll admit, but it's extremely helpful, and it really helps you find out from your website where your audience is coming from. Are they coming from searches in Google? Are they coming from email campaigns? Are they coming from your social media platforms? Are they coming from your blog? That kind of information is extremely useful to you, because if you know that your target audience is coming from, say they're coming from Facebook, you can go into your Facebook analytics even further and research those potential clients or users. You can so look at their demographics, and that really helps you hone in on some more information even further. The other great thing about Google Analytics is you're able to see how long users are staying on certain web pages. So say they're staying on a particular blog post more than your homepage, or maybe you have a high bounce rate on your homepage. That kind of tells you things that you need to adjust to keep users on your site longer. Or if you have certain pages that are performing really well, look at the certain aspects of those pages and why they're performing well, and kind of mimic that in a brochure kind of setting. I'm going to take a sip of water. Hold on. Number 6, knowing who your target audience is not is equally important as knowing who your target audience is. And I cannot stress this enough, because if you know as a venue that you aren't booking fashion shoots or fashion shows, like you should not be putting advertisements out on the web that would attract a potential client who wants a space for fashion shoots, because the last thing you want to do is tell somebody no. Or you might be thinking, well, wait, why is my message unclear? You really want your messaging to be clear and concise. And you really want to make sure that you know who you don't want to book at your venue, because then that will help you in your marketing efforts as well when creating the copy of your brochure and how to create certain verbiage and imagery and the development of any kind of marketing collateral. So like I said, it's just as important to know who your target audience isn't compared to who it is. So now I want to talk about the different components that make up a kick-ass brochure. So if you go online, you'll find so many different websites or blog posts that say like 8 things that make a brochure, or 10 things that you have to include in your brochure, 5 things. These 6 things are my personal opinion. This is what I think are key elements to building trust with your potential clients by using brochures. So those would be creating compelling copy, the colors that you use and the psychology that surrounds that. Same with typography, the imagery you use, the layout of the brochure, and then lastly, you have to have a clear call to action. So number one, creating compelling copy. So the copy that you use helps your clients build trust with you and your venue. I hate to break it to you, but the person reading your brochure isn't thinking about you. They care about themselves. So they only want to know how they can benefit from what you're offering. Okay, so you want to use attention grabbing headlines and subheadlines because people skim and they want to be able to see what's the most important thing that I need to know. So by using headlines and subheadlines makes it easier for a person who's briefly skimming your brochure to look down and see what the key advantages or benefits are of doing business with you. Readability is key. If you're a venue that offers professional meetings, then I would try to write my copy from a professional standpoint using professional language. If I was hosting social events, I would definitely make my language more fun. Don't make it as stuffy as maybe a professional brochure. So think about who's reading it and what kind of events that you want them to book. Again, it goes back to your ideal client. Too much copy will lose a reader's interest. So make sure that you have a good balance between copy and imagery and those headlines to make sure that you're keeping the reader's attention. Corey, I see, are there some questions in the chat or in the Q&A box?
The only question which I addressed, it was just, can we share copies of today's slides with the attendees? And I said, yes, we'll do that. And we'll also share the YouTube link of the recording once it's uploaded.
Okay, perfect. So the next thing to consider are colors. I kind of geek out on color psychology, so I'm gonna try not to go overboard because there's a lot of information when it comes to the color theory and the psychology of color. But I have a quote here that I found online. It says, color plays an important role in how your brand is perceived. So it helps by using certain colors, it helps your client or your potential client. It helps you build a strong, relatable brand, and it can help you attract them in certain ways that they aren't even consciously realizing. So you want to use color strategically to help you reach your target audience within your target market, and you want them to take action. Certain colors evoke certain feelings and emotions, and they can influence audience behavior. Like I said, most of the time it's subconsciously. And then I have another disclaimer here that you should still always follow your brand standards and guidelines. So if you don't have orange in your brand standards, do not put orange in your brochure. You want to make sure you're staying within your brand guidelines, but maybe use a different shade or hue of certain colors to help, trigger that kind of influential behavior that you want your audience to take. So I'm just going to briefly go into kind of what each color means. If you attended my Creating a Brand Handbook webinar, gosh, I think it was last year, then you would have seen this as well. So I'm just briefly going to talk about this. So red, it invokes feelings of excitement, passion, potentially danger, energy, and action. And then I have some brands listed underneath each color that you see. And if you see anything on here that I'm missing that really red, and you think of a brand that off the top of your head that I didn't list there, please put it in the chat so people can see. But orange is more of a creative color. It invokes feelings of adventure and sparks enthusiasm, success, and balance. And I think a great example of this is Harley Davidson. Because to me, in my mind, they have orange in their logo and in their branding, and that is adventurous to me to have a motorcycle. And that enthusiasm and kind of thrill that you get from riding a motorcycle, that orange I feel like is the perfect color to go with their brand. Nickelodeon, like as a kid, I was a 90s kid, and I grew up watching Nickelodeon nonstop, and just like that color orange just brings back like feelings of, again, like enthusiasm and excitement and fun. It's a really fun color. Yellow invokes happiness, positivity, optimism, and feelings of summer. I will say about yellow, though, it is a really hard color to look at visually, so I wouldn't recommend using text in yellow, especially yellow on top of white. It's really hard to see and it's hard on the eye. But there's some brands here like IKEA, Sun Chips, obviously, the word sun is in their name, so of course they're gonna go with yellow. And then McDonald's, like think back to being a kid and getting like a Happy Meal and seeing those golden arches down the road. So yellow is a happy color. Green signifies growth, fertility, health, and generosity. Some brands that I have listed, Whole Foods, great example of a grocery store that promotes health and wellness and organic food. John Deere, I'm just thinking of their green tractors, and I'm thinking of, using that as a way to help improve your lawn or grow, fertilize your lawn. But you will see a lot of healthcare doctor's offices or healthcare brochures using a lot of green as well. If you haven't noticed it, look for it in the future and you might see what I'm talking about. Blue is the color of stability and harmony, peacefulness. It invokes feelings of calm and trust. So some examples might be GE or Ford has that in their logo as well. I'm interested to see what other brands, if you guys know any, put them in the chat that have blue, because I kind of had a hard time with this one. So I'd be interested to see. Same with purple. Purple invokes feelings of power, nobility, luxury, wisdom, and spirituality. And I actually read something that a long time ago, only the royals could afford the dye to make purple. So that's why now it's known for its luxuriousness or nobility. It's because a long time ago, like royalty could only afford that kind of dye to make purple in their clothing or whatever the case might be. And so some examples of brands might be Hallmark or Sci-Fi Network or Aussie. Hold on one second. Okay. The next colors are white, black, and brown. So I'm going to start with brown first. Brown is more earthy, more natural. It invokes feelings of comfort and security and just a down-to-earth kind of feel or nature to it. Some brands might be Godiva or Hershey's, mainly because they're chocolate, but Louis Vuitton actually is brown, and I think that UPS obviously is brown too. White and black. White shows innocence, goodness, cleanliness. It's more pure. And then black it can go a couple different ways. So I caution you with using black a whole lot. Black can be mysterious. It can signify power and sophistication, but it can also signify darkness. And in the Western world, a lot of times black is associated with funerals. So I would definitely caution you when using a whole lot of black. So if you are more of a sophisticated or a luxurious brand, I would say go for it. But if you're a venue that's really trying to attract, I don't know, like youth camps, I wouldn't necessarily go with black. And then I have a couple, just some visualizations for you here. You can see different logos in the color emotion guide that you'll probably be familiar with. And some of them you might say, oh yeah, that really goes with, okay, yeah, Best Buy's yellow, that really goes with, optimism or whatever. So just a little visualization for you. It's kind of fun to look at. Like I said, I kind of geek out over color theory and color psychology. So I'm always looking at different brands and like why they chose certain colors in their brand guides. And it's just really fun if you ever have time to look at it. This was really cool. If you look at this color wheel, I love the way that they explain this. It says, color combinations determine how color is perceived in the same way musical notes combine to create a melody. So I think it's really interesting to point out that a lot of this is subconscious and we're not even really realizing it, but colors really make us feel a certain way, and color is energy. So like it says in the bottom right corner. So by surrounding yourself in certain colors, whether it be what colors you paint your walls at home or, using in your brand kit for your business, just remember that color is really important. Okay, the next component or key element of a kick-ass brochure is your typography. Now, the psychology of font, I feel, is equally as important as the psychology of color, but there's not a lot of studies, unfortunately, or as much studies done as color psychology. But interesting fonts grab your audience's attention. Like I said, headlines and subheadlines help the reader skim through and find the most important aspects of your brochure. But there's a couple of things I want to go over. There's a serif font and a sans serif font. So a serif font, as you see, is a little bit more, I'm going to put my cursor here, traditional. It has these lines that go on the ends of your font. Sans serif literally means without serif, so it's a more clean and modern typeface. You can have a scripted or clean font within your brochure. So I have two examples. Like I said, a clean font might be really great for a venue who has amazing technology and is like more modern. And so a clean font would be really great to pair with your brochure. Headlines for a venue who might be offering social gatherings. A scripted headline might be really cool to feature. And again, another disclaimer, please stay within your brand standards because again, that builds your trust with your consumer or your potential planner who's booking with you to show that like everything's cohesive, and that builds trust with them. So I did put a little quote here. It says, scientific research has demonstrated a significant relationship between font choice and its effect on viewers and readers. The selection of a typeface has powerful implications for both design and branding and affecting the inferences and meaning that others will draw from it. So there's certain inferences. There's bold or italics. It really helps with your headlines. If you have a bolded headline, it's very attention grabbing. Same with italics. It's like, hey, this is a really important detail that you need to know. Legibility really helps with recall and meaning. And interestingly enough, I read that it is easier to, how do I say this? It's easier for somebody reading your brochure or your content to retain the information you're saying if it's a little less legible, because it takes them longer for it to figure out what it says. Now, I'm not implying that you should make your brochure really hard to read because nobody's going to look at it, but I thought that was a really interesting fact because in my mind, I would think the easier to read, the better. But maybe having headings in like a cool scripted font like this, or maybe italicized or bold, it's really helpful for the person digesting the information because, like I said, it helps them skim over certain parts and see what's important, what are the benefits that you're really trying to highlight about your venue. So again, I just have like a little graphic here that kind of shows you the different types of fonts and the psychology behind them. So, you know, serif is more traditional and it tells you it's more respectable, reliable, comfort. Script is more elegant. So if you have like a wedding venue and you're trying to attract couples or a traditional bride, maybe your ideal client's the traditional couple, then like this elegant script is great to use in your headings. Sans serif is great. Like I said, it's modern, it's clean, be great for a venue who really relies heavily on their amazing technology. Same with the modern font. And then the display fonts, they're really quirky. And so I think that that's a really cool font to use if your venue's kind of a quirky venue. Or dare I say, unique. Number 4, another key element is photography imagery. So I read a fact that our brains process visuals 60,000 times faster than text. Visuals, I cannot stress this enough, are so important to marketing, not just in brochures, but in Facebook ads, in Pinterest pins that you're putting on, in obviously Instagram in your grid. Imagery, a picture is worth 1,000 words, right? It's so true. So imagery really helps you sell your venue to your potential ideal client. You really want to make sure you're using pictures of your venue decorated. I would not put like an empty room on your venue profile at uniquevenues.com or within your brochure. You want to see liveliness. You want to see it decorated. Like, for example, I have a wedding set up here. I have a professional meeting here with people in the room. So it shows a great example to your potential clients because it helps them envision themselves in that space and holding an event in your space. So you can build trust by doing this, and you want to make sure that you keep the look and feel of the imagery consistent. So for instance, you don't want to have a black and white photograph on the left side of your brochure and then a full color image on the right side of your brochure. That shows inconsistency and subconsciously shows that ideal client should not trust you and they'll go look at a competitor. So you want to make sure that your imagery is consistent. It has the same filters on it. There might be an overlay on top of the image, meaning maybe your image is filtered to show green because your brand, your primary color and your brand standards is green. So maybe you have a green overlay over all of your images. If you're familiar with our company Intern Housing Hub, a lot of our images, actually, I just redid the website and the images all have overlays in our brand colors. So it's more consistent that way. So that's a great example. If you have a second after this, go to internhousinghub.com and you'll see what I'm talking about. But you can use that same kind of effect in your brochures and in your marketing by using your brand colors and using them as overlays to provide a more consistent look and feel. Another disclaimer here, you have to have permission to showcase a photographer's work in your brochure. If you want to use an image from a photographer that's been at your venue, maybe they you hosted a conference and they were the photographer for the conference and you want to showcase some of their work, you have to get written permission from them. It gives you a paper trail. I wouldn't go verbal permission, I'd go written. And also make sure you always give them credit as well. Colored visuals increase people's desire to read content by 80%, and content with images increases, increases a view rate by 94%. Those statistics to me are staggering. And it just goes to show that if you have a good balance between imagery and text in your brochure, you're going to keep that person's attention a little bit longer. So different ways you can use visuals, and I'm not going to go too in depth with this, but you could use photographs, you could use graphics, or you could even use illustrations. Something like this would be really pretty. Like this would be really pretty to use with a venue brochure that showcases weddings, maybe even baby showers or bridal showers or something like that. Number 5, the layout, design, white space, and color blocking. So humans' attention spans are on average less than 8 seconds, and I read that goldfish have longer attention spans than we do. So first of all, I hope you guys are still paying attention during this presentation and I didn't lose your attention here. But the layout, design, and use of white space really helps keep the reader's attention. And you need to strategically use white space to ensure that you're not overwhelming the eye with too much text. And you want to make sure that you spread out the imagery and the text so that it's not overcrowded. But if you give too much white space, you don't want to give the idea that you're not offering enough service. So there's a really fine line and there's a good balance when it comes to designing and laying out your brochure. You want to use shaded boxes or shapes. You could use a circle to organize information. Maybe it's a statistic that you want to highlight, or you could organize certain information. So that's a great use of using color blocking. However, you don't want to use too much of it because then it defeats the purpose of drawing the eye to that specific location on the page. And then it's kind of just defeats the purpose. So you want to make sure that you only use 1 or 2 of those, use them sparingly. And then lastly is you want to create a clear call to action in your brochures. Which leads me to my next point. This is the 6th key element when creating a kick-ass brochure. You have to tell your audience or your reader or the person that you delivered that brochure to, whether it be printed by hand or digitally, you have to tell them what to do next. But not only that, you have to tell them how to do that, because sometimes it's just like mind paralysis. They don't know. They get overwhelmed with like, what do I do next? This is great, but like, okay, what's the next step? So a beautiful brochure is not enough. It's only as good as your call to action. So using strong verbs are essential. So I have some examples here where if it was your website, like subscribe or download or email, but for you in a brochure, it might say call to book now or booking now, email so-and-so or something like that. You want to be able to create a sense of urgency when you're developing your copy, because you want the reader to feel like they're going to miss out if they don't do something now, or if they don't book with you to host their event or meeting at your venue. And also you want to provide a sense of value, remind them of the benefits. So an example might be a complimentary coffee station if you book by May 31st. Or it might be book your wedding by June 1st and receive 25% off a rehearsal dinner the night before, or something like that. So, you know, make sure that you're providing some kind of value for them to make them want to feel like they want to book with you right now. And lastly, I do want to plug my shameless plug for unique venues. Like Corey had mentioned, we did start offering design services with our marketing at unique venues, and it's been extremely successful. And it's something that we're really passionate about because, like I said, you guys as venue managers and salespeople and marketers and everything in between have a lot on your plate. So this is one less thing that you would have to worry about. And it's something that we offer. And, you know, I feel like this is something I'm really passionate about and our team's really passionate about. We write all the copy, we interview you, we sit down with you, we talk about, you know, your ideal client, we write the copy for you. There's different rounds of edits, of course, with your input, but we also have, you know, use our design team to lay out the brochure in a functional, practical, and in a way that it would make your ideal client want to do business with you. So here's an example from one university that we created a brochure for. These are just 3 pages of it. These aren't in order. I just took 3 random pages out of their brochure so you can see kind of how it was laid out. so you'll notice like this is a university, so it's a little, we had to stay within their brand standards. Universities are extremely strict with their marketing and brand guidelines. I'm sure some of you on this webinar work at universities. I'm not sure, I didn't look at the list, but if you do work at one, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And then this next one is a wedding brochure that we created. And funny enough, it actually is a university as well, but they are just getting into the wedding game and in the market for weddings. And so we created a beautiful brochure for them to attract, you know, their ideal bride or couple. And so, you know, there's a large variety of brochures that we can help you create. And like I said, we're very passionate about it. So this is my last slide. If you are interested in at least talking to us about your options with us creating a brochure for you, or even any other kind of design service, whether it be, you know, business cards or infographics or whatever it might be, email Joel. He's our director of consulting at uniquevenues.com. And if you contract with us for a design service, then you'll get 10% off. So with that, 3 minutes to spare. Corey, are there any questions?
No. Oh, wait. Oh, so Patty had asked earlier, she said, you know, how do you distribute these brochures? And I responded to her individually, and I just said, you know, make sure you have a couple of different copies of the different brochures. So have one in print, have one as a PDF that you can email, have one that lives as a URL on your site. So it gives you a lot of flexibility with how you can present and share this information. So Allie, I'm actually going to defer this next follow-up question from her to you. Do you have any recommendations for the type of paper to use for brochures if you're going to print it?
I'm going to add, before I answer that, I'm going to add to your
Please do.
other answer, Patty. Back in the day when we were having trade shows, brochures were a great thing to have on hand at trade shows as well, because you could, you know, as you know, trade shows are extremely busy and you only have a few minutes to talk to certain people unless you schedule a one-on-one or a face-to-face meeting with them. So by providing them your service catalog printed in person, that is a great option. If you are attending a wedding expo and there's brides coming through, you definitely want to have a brochure on hand to provide to them. There are a lot of ways. And can I tell you a secret from a marketing perspective? I take the copy from our brochure, like certain sentences out of our brochure, and I use that in our social media marketing. I use that in pretty much most of the marketing I do. I take like little snippets from the copy and just kind of recycle it. You don't have to reinvent the wheel every single time you're marketing something for your venue or your company. So having a brochure is a really great way for your marketing team to refer back to, you know, what you do, what you provide, the services you offer, and use that as a way to help you market your venue. Because like I said, consistency is key. And when you have consistent language in your social media marketing and in your brochure services catalog, it goes a long way with the potential client. As far as paper, it really depends on who you're trying to attract and what content is living within that brochure. So, like I said, you can do paper that has more of a matte finish. We've done that with our Unique Venues catalogs before, and the texture was really great. We've actually had a lot of compliments on it because it's different. And as soon as somebody picks it up, that sense of like feeling and touch when they hold that in their hands, they realize, oh, this is different. I like it. And it will help them read through the brochure a little bit longer. So my suggestion to you would be meeting with the printer and having them send you samples. A lot of times they'll send free samples of different cardstock or glossy paper or whatever the kind of paper might be for you to make a decision. So you're welcome.
Any other questions, let us know. I know that a lot of us need to get running. So if there is a question, we can make sure to respond to it directly with you after this event. What you will get from us within the next couple of days is an email with our poll report, PDF copy of these slides. We'll send our brochure just so you can see that. And that would give you another opportunity to ask any questions that you have at that time. On the screen right now is just another reminder of the different design services that we offer, and just another plug for our upcoming webinars and online educational events throughout the next couple of weeks. You'll see that there's a lot of gaps maybe between some of these sessions. That just means that we're maybe still trying to fill in the gaps, and maybe there won't be anything to fill in the gaps, but this is what's on the menu right now. Everything continues to be free, whether you're a client of ours, a planner, or someone who's not a client. So feel free to register for any of the upcoming sessions that are relevant to you or someone on your team. Thank you, Allie, for your expertise today and walking us through the psychology and the importance behind some of the design decisions when it comes to creating your kick-ass digital brochure and attracting those ideal clients. Good luck to everyone who is out there working to attract your ideal clients. Now, still isn't the easiest of times, but we see the light at the end of the tunnel. It's here. It's getting bigger every day. And just again, thank you for spending the last hour with us. And we look forward to seeing you on a future webinar. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great day.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.